Hey guys, Pastor Alex here, and before we jump into the sermon, I just want to take a moment and say thank you so much for tuning in, watching with us today. We hope this blesses and encourages you, so enjoy the message.
Have you guys enjoyed Love Ain't Easy, by the way? I mean, it's been one of my favorite series we've ever done. It's taken off online. Last week was so special for me. Thank you for everyone who sent that to anybody. I'm getting responses from people, dude, you name it, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, all the way Florida, Georgia. It's nuts. I mean, it's been sent to so many people. It's blown my mind. So thank you. If you've done that, if you tune in online, if you share that kind of stuff. And just in case, if you are new today, my name is Alex Gallion. I'm the lead pastor here at Overflow. And I usually try and say that for any of our first timers, but I lead here alongside my wife, who's working the guest experience team right now, and alongside a team of people, man, who put their hearts and souls into this thing. And to end our current series, Love Ain't Easy, this is part 5, our 5th and final part of this series. We wanted to have someone who's very, very special to Overflow here. And I'll hold off on her name real quick, but she has played a role personally in countless lives and in countless marriages represented in this room. She is a counselor. She's from Jackson, Tennessee. She has seen a lot of people from Overflow. She knows our story. And if you've been impacted by nearly any one of our leaders, then you've been impacted by her indirectly. Her yes has been such a big deal to the health of this church. So without further ado, would you guys stand up on your feet, and would you, once again, the loudest, grandest Overflow welcome that you can give, would you give it up for Miss D. Wright?
Well, I'm so glad I didn't say anything inappropriate in the back then. Hi. Thank you so much for a very warm welcome. I cannot tell you how humbled I am just to be here. But I want you to know that just like all of you, Satan has been fighting me coming here. Forgive me. The last 3 weekends, we've known for quite some time that I was going to be coming on today's day. And for the last 3 weekends, my husband and I have had just total knockdown, drag-out fights. And fortunately, at the last time we did, he said, or one of us said, I probably should give him the credit, but one of us said, surely we can talk like grown-ups. And then once we did that, we were able to work through that. And obviously, we were able to work through that all 3 times. But also, we get here, and I bring my laptop because that's where all my stuff is. And I forget my charger at home, and my laptop's dead. And I bring my iPad, which I think, well, I can charge that in the car, which is not true. Can't do that. So we get it here and we got it charging, but can't get the thing to bleed over from the laptop. And so I'm like, well, you know what? If all else fails, I have it on my phone. I'm just going to have to hold it right here. So as it turns out, great technical team that you have. We got it all worked out. And so here we are. We've got it actually on the iPad. And hopefully it will stay up the whole time. It's charged, it's ready, we're good. I want to start with just telling you a little bit about what's happened to us, my husband and I, over our marriage. As I mentioned, Satan really was fighting against me coming here today, and you had this little voice on your shoulder that's saying, what makes you so knowledgeable? What makes you so, like, they would even want to hear what you have to say? And I didn't really have anything to say to that for a minute, and I started thinking about, well, what does our story look like? And unfortunately, it took us a minute to wake up. And so back in the day, we've been together 29 years, 29 years July. And so I wish I could say that was all hunky-dory and wonderful and all that, and all that stuff, all that neat stuff you see on Facebook, but that's not reality. Reality is that relationships are really hard, and nobody told me that. And I don't know if anybody ever told him that or not, but no one told me what it meant to fight for a marriage, what it meant to fight for your friend, and to fight for yourself even. So in all of that, we early on didn't have that. We were married 6 years before we finally said, okay, enough is enough, and we divorced. Much to both of our dismay. Neither of us wanted that. Neither of us thought it was the right thing, the best thing, any of those things. It just simply was, we didn't know what else to do. We had, I can't remember if we had tried marriage counseling at that time, but I'm not sure either of us would have listened. We were so caught up in self that I don't know that we would have listened to anything anybody had to say. So we divorced and promptly lived together for another probably year. That was the funniest thing. Our divorce was final in July. Is that right? June 27th, July 27th, one of those J's. And it must have been June, because then by July 4th, we're talking to each other on the phone, and he's moved to Florida because he ran away. And I promptly chased him. He said, come down here. I had a dream about you. Come down here. Well, that's all I needed. What, you're dreaming about me? Absolutely, we're supposed to be together. So I run off to Florida. And fortunately, we don't have children. You know, we'd be hauling those kids. What a nightmare for that. So I go to Florida. We make it about a year. We still aren't making it. We're surviving the day every day. I'm sure every day for him probably was like, oh my God, can I make it through one more day of this? Because I wasn't the easiest to live with, if I'm honest. I thought he was really sick. I thought he was to blame. I thought he was just being a multitude of names that I'm not allowed to say in God's house. And what I wasn't willing to say was that I was not being myself, my best self either. But again, I didn't have anybody to tell me, hey, here's what, this is going to be hard. Here's what this is going to look like. You know, here's what you're going to have to do. Nobody told me all that. So I just thought he was jacked up and, oh, can you say jacked up in church? Okay. Overflow. Okay. So I thought he was jacked up, and all along I thought, well, I was just doing everything. I was just loving him. I was just being the best I knew to be, and I really was, y'all. I really was. I was being the best I knew to be. So lo and behold, he leaves. He runs away again, and I stay there and for about another, some months, and end up back in Nashville, and this is all before I went to college. This is all before God's calling on my life that I knew of. This is all before God that I could tell. And I was praying for him every day. And I believe that's what brought us back together. But nonetheless, so it was a couple years past, we weren't together, but we longed to be. Like, I can tell y'all the weirdest story. I was a flight attendant, and I flew into, was it Orlando or Tampa, one of the Floridas, and I just had this feeling he was there. Like, it was the craziest thing. I'm telling you, I'm connected to that man, like it or not. I mean, whether he likes it or not, I'm inside him, and he's inside me. And I cannot even describe how that is. We call it, we have ESPN. And that's what we mean, that connection, that's what we mean when we say ESPN. I don't know anything about sports. So I fly into there, and I call him up, and I'm like, dude, where are you? And he was there. I'm telling you, I forget, he was there or had just left. I can hardly see him. Which one? I can't hear you. I just left when he flew in. What? Can you even believe that? And that was when we were divorced. We were still divorced. Anyway, so we stayed divorced for a while. And then we decided to live together again. We decided, hey, here's what I want. Here, if you can do this, come back home is what we would say. We had our own songs, like If You're Gone, Baby, It's Time to Come Home. Who is that? Matchbox 20. That was our song, y'all, our divorce song. That was our divorce song. So It was just the craziest thing. So anyway, so we lived together another while and decided to go ahead and get married. And bless our hearts, we were still very broken. So we were on the verge of divorce again. When we were at the time members of Northside United Methodist Church in Jackson. Conley goes on a Wednesday night with me because he's in the doghouse. He didn't go because he wanted to. He never wanted to go on a Wednesday night, but he'd go on Sunday mornings, sometimes on Sunday nights. But he never wanted to go. He said it was a girl fest on Wednesday night, and so he didn't want to go. So he went with me one time because he was in the doghouse. He knew that's how close we were to divorce again. And I'm embarrassed to say that, but again, that was before we understood. So he goes, and there's this guy there talking about getting over your past. Getting past your past, I guess is what he said. And it was going to be a little weekend seminar, and I looked at Conley because we tried everything else. I mean, we both knew what was going on, where we were. And he said, sure, why not? And it was $200. At the time, we didn't really have $200. And I wrote that check so fast, I thought money will commit that man. That man will be committed if you pay for something. He's, by golly, going if you've paid for it. So I write that check, and sure enough, we go. And Con, I'm going to use your words. He told me he had a meeting with the Holy Spirit when two little old church ladies prayed a prayer of deliverance over him. And it was life-changing for him and therefore us. It was amazing. I could not even believe it. But you know what? I left there so pissed off. Because I didn't feel any different. And it was the craziest thing. And so I told the little guy, he was so sweet. I love Mark West. He was so sweet. I said, listen, I think we have a little bit of a problem. I have put a lot of energy and a lot of time into building this wall around my heart. I really don't think you're going to be able to get through it. I mean, this is all great, and my husband seems to have gotten some healing, and that's wonderful, and I'm all for that, but, this really, basically I was saying this isn't for me. Well, that's just ridiculous. And he laughed. He was so sweet. He just kind of patted me and said, that's okay, honey, you're good. We got this. And I'm like, okay, but this isn't going to work, right? And so I'll be dogged if we didn't continue to be involved in that ministry. And the more we were involved in that ministry, the more God revealed to me the part I played. The part I played in our marriage, the part I played in the brokenness in our marriage, the part I played in all of my relationships, not just my marriage. Because funny thing about God, he's so funny. The Bible has a definition of love. And he doesn't say, now this is only going to apply to your marriage or to a romantic relationship. This is only going to apply to your children and your families. He doesn't say that. He says, hey, here's what love looks like. And here's what this means. And what we don't understand, because we're thinking, it's a broad statement. You're just going to throw that out there. Here we are. This is what love means. But that's not really the way God wrote. For just a minute, I want to tell you what my goal is before I dive into the definition of love. Oh, look at me touching my face. Coronavirus alert, right? You guys have heard perspectives on dating, having grace in a marriage, being a grown-up in a marriage, and also what about when divorce happens, right? My job here today, or my goal, is to pull all that together and just tell you, hey, you can't do it like in stages. You can't do it like in, you might just by chance be dating at that point in time, but love applies to everything. And so how you get to know somebody, how you interact with them when you're dating, how you interact with them when you have children, what kind of conversations do you have? What kind of conversations do you have when you feel the marriage is falling apart or you're struggling? All of this, what I'm about to tell you, applies to all of that. So as far as the Bible is concerned, the definition of love, now this is what love looks like, okay? So in Corinthians 13, I'm going to just, this is what the Bible app told me it said. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. And I'll just tell you, keep that in mind. It is not proud. That means that pride can be a problem for us. Now understand, when God's saying all of this, he's saying this to give you an idea of what it looks like, but he's also saying this to say, hey, watch out for these snares. Okay? This is where we're going to be snared. So he needs to tell us this so that we know what that looks like, right? So we can keep that in mind and kind of bring ourselves back into what love looks like. He says it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. Now I want you to think about my story with me and Conley. Self-seeking. That means selfish. That means self-centered. And I kept pointing a finger at Conley. That kind of matters, right? And so just understand that in all my rightness, but I love him and he should act this way and I deserve this and I deserve that. That was all true. But the problem with it was that it was self-seeking. So it goes on to say, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. I'm sorry. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. And the truth was what we could not see. It always protects, always hopes, always perseveres. We didn't do a great job of protecting each other, but by golly, the two of us always hoped. And we always persevered because we were just too darn stubborn to let go. And praise God for that. I mean, God knew what he was doing in that. So then I want you to consider those things. And that's not, I need these notes for that. That is all Corinthians 13. It might have been 1 Corinthians, and I knocked the one off of it. Sorry about that. So just thinking about that, when you think about those things, you have to recognize. Now, again, God's telling us two different things. He's telling us, hey, this is what love looks like. And then he's telling us these are going to be snares. These are places where you can be snared. Now, it's the where you can be snared part that we tend to miss. That God's telling us ahead of time, hey, if this is what love looks like, these can also be snares. The other thing that the Bible tells us is that love is a choice. Now, in Romans 12:10, it says, be devoted. Anytime it says be, that means like here's what I need you to do, right? Here's almost like a command. Be devoted to one another in love. Now that we know what love looks like, then this makes sense, right? So be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Now, that doesn't mean be a doormat. It simply means, you still have to, back to where we said you got to be an adult, right? And so you have to do your part. So honor one another above yourselves. Love must be sincere. But again, if we're sincerely choosing, then I don't have to feel that, right? So it may not be a time, I'll just tell you, 29 years, people. 29 years of moments where I'm sure I made him crazy, but not nearly as crazy as he made me. Just saying. Love must be sincere. You must sincerely choose to love. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Know when evil comes into your relationship. Know when it's evil. Talk about it. Have a conversation. For crying out loud, have a real conversation. Not a conversation about you left your drawers laying in the floor again. Can you not pick up your underwear or your wet towel or your shoes out of the living room? Please help me here. That is not our problem. Our problem is that, hey, I feel like I'm not being considered. I feel like I'm not being taken care of. I feel like I'm not being loved and treated appropriately, like I'm not being cherished, because that's what girls want, right? That's what all us women want. That's what I want. That's what the Bible says I deserve, right there. So when we decide to be in a relationship, understand that we are choosing to be on the same team. Ephesians 4 describes it like this. It says be, right? So that's like a command. It says, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. So when you would like to start with this chatter, this you did this, you'd always, you die, blah, 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 blah. And Charlie Brown's teacher goes on and on and on, right? Those of you that are older know who Charlie Brown is. But instead, it's being a grown-up, being willing to say, first of all, listen, my husband said on the way over here, I have 2 ears and 1 mouth on purpose. So stop and listen. Listen to what they're saying. Not that you left your shoes in the floor again and I tripped over them or whatever, but listen to what they're saying that they're feeling. And even if you don't understand, hug them anyway and tell them that you love them. There is so much power in the words, I'm sorry I hurt you. Not in I'm sorry I left my shoes in the floor. I'm sorry I hurt you. Now, I would love to say that Conley and I got this right away, but we didn't. We've been at this for 29 years, and we are still growing. But the one thing that we have finally figured out, and this we know for sure, and it never fails, is that we grow when we are uncomfortable. There are a lot of people who just want to avoid conflict, but the reality is conflict is important. That's when we tell people how we really feel. And so if we avoid conflict, we keep fighting about the shoes, and it's not about the stinking shoes. It's about, my feelings are hurt. It's about, I thought you were going to cherish me, and I don't feel cherished. My expectation was that you would honor me by coming home at a normal time and not going to the bar first or whatever, or hanging out with your buddies or whatever. Now, I have a long list of things that, just memories that I have, not a score I'm keeping at this point, but just memories that I have of when we said things to each other that were horribly, horribly hurtful. Now, that was not my finest moment, and it was not his finest moment. And I know that because his finest moment, I think, is right now. So we can say all kinds of hurtful things. We can beat around the bush talking about shoes, towels in the floor, not having help with the kids, whatever. We can talk about all that, or we can really talk about, what did I think marriage was going to be? What did I think a relationship was going to be? Like before you got married, any of y'all that got married, before you got married, did you have a conversation about what they thought about money and managing money? Anybody do that? Alex? One other person? 2 other people? Y'all might be the same. Y'all might go together. Did you have a conversation? So 2 people. Did anybody have a conversation about what they thought it looked like to raise children or to discipline children? Here's a couple of people down here. Why not? Those are real life things. If you want to, Listen, let me just tell you. If you want to have a problem in your marriage, add children. If you want to shine a spotlight on the problems and the brokenness in your marriage, have children. They don't fix anything, people. I've had lots of people, I thought if I got pregnant, no, people. No, that does not work. It's just the opposite. So it shines a light on that. But the other thing, throw in money. Because, the theory is, and from God's perspective, you're going to combine your money. It's all one team. It's all one pile, right? And so if it's all one pile, it becomes ours. And then just for a minute, not talk about whether or not having your nails is a big deal to you. Just for a minute, don't talk about that, and then let him notice how much you spend on your nails. Twice a week, I have my nails done, just so y'all know. Not twice a week, I'm sorry. What did I say? Every other week. Every other week, not twice a week, I'm sorry. I can't actually, not. Okay, so every other week. The older I get, the more often I have my hair colored. I don't know, you guys probably don't know. That's some pricey crap right there. You throw in highlights? What? Okay, so don't have that conversation before you get married, but let him notice how much you're spending on that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But it really won't be about you're spending too much money or you're not helping me with the kids or whatever. The conversation will be about that, but it really won't be about that. It'll be about, hey, can I count on you to back me up? Hey, can I count on you to support me when I am vain enough I want to have my hair colored? That's what it really is about. So be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. So what can you expect from those things? So we know already that the Bible's told us what it looks like. It's told us that we have a choice. It's told us be on the same team. And now what can you expect if you can do all those things? And understand nobody's going to do it perfectly. God never mentions being perfect, not one time in the whole Bible. Right? Am I right? Okay. Don't let me tell that to people if it's not true. Okay, so God never mentions perfection, but he does say, do all things in excellence, right? So you're striving to do well. This is an ongoing thing. Understand life is a journey. Relationships are journeys. Sometimes someone's in your life for a moment, and they were there for a season, and then they're gone for whatever reason. But life is a journey. And so on this journey, understand that you're striving for perfection, or for excellence, not perfection. So what you can expect, according to Galatians 5:22, says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. The thing that really sticks out to me, I'm sorry, I know I'm moving this mic and I don't mean to. The thing that sticks out to me is three words: love, joy, and peace. Oh my gosh. To me, if I have peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, all that comes with that. That's just a component of peace. But to have peace in your home, oh my goodness, versus chaos. Oh my goodness. I mean, some of y'all know what I'm talking about. The chaos it's like loud noise that never stops. And then you have that moment of quiet, and it's like, oh my goodness, this feels so good. Oh my goodness, this feels good. And then the noise starts again. That's how we recognize that. Now keep that in mind. So we talked earlier about conflict. Conflict is where we grow. When things are hard, understand if you never have a hard time, you don't know what a good time feels like. That's what I'm talking about. Conflict is so important. It's where we grow. It's where we grow as a couple. It's where we grow as individuals. Because God's always trying to do two things. He's trying to show us something about ourselves and something about Him. Always trying to do those two things every moment of every day. And so it's really important that we tie all that together and we start to see this. Oh, look, God's got all of this connected. Awesome, isn't that interesting? And then when you start to realize that, you start to realize that everything is connected in God's world. You guys think that you're here to because you prayed for a church to come to where you could feel comfortable and feel at home and worship freely and all that. Well, funny thing is the reality is the leaders of this church have prayed that the people who needed this church would come. And so you see the connection there. You see how all of that is both connected, both ways. And that's just amazing at how all of God's things are connected. Your life, my life, we're not here by chance. So I have a couple of things that I want to just share. I've given you the biblical definition of love. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Brene Brown. Brene Brown is a LCSW, like me, same title as me, only she's a researcher. And I think she might have gone on to get her PhD, but I am not doing that. I hated school. So Brene, her definition of love, I'm going to read it slowly because it's a lot to take in. It says, we cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known. And when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from that offering, so the way we honor that connection is we honor it with trust, respect, kindness, and affection. It's not something we give or get, but something we nurture and grow. Now remember, we talked about conflict, right? Nurture, grow, comfortable, uncomfortable. It's a connection that can only be cultivated between two people when it exists within each one of them. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. Now I want to stop right there for just a second, and I want to go down to something else where the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourselves. Well, we tend to focus on the love your neighbor thing, and we completely discount the love ourselves. What God is saying in that love your neighbor as yourselves, He's saying, hey, you can't drink from an empty well. You can't give something you don't have. You can ask me for a piece of gum right now, and I'm going to tell you, you know what, I don't have any. And it doesn't matter how much you ask me, the story's still going to be the same. I don't have any. I mean, you see me, I'm standing here. I don't have any pockets. So it doesn't matter. If I had to convince you, I would say, look, I don't have any pockets. I don't have any gum. And you could keep asking and asking and asking, and that's what happens in relationships. We keep saying, I need this, I need this, I need this. Please give this to me. I need it, right? And the other person's going, I'm doing all I can. I don't know what to tell you, right? So we're saying we need this need met, and the other person is going, I don't know what to do with that. I'm doing everything I know to do. And so sometimes people are loving as much as they can. They can only give what they have. So if they haven't had a good role model or a good experience with marriage in the past, with having parents or significant people in their lives that had healthy marriages, I mean, what do you expect them to give you? They don't have any idea what you're talking about. Again, a conversation to have before you marry. What do you think marriage looks like? How about that? Just a thought. So we can only love each other as much as we love ourselves. Shame, blame, disrespect, betrayal, and the withholding of affection damage the roots from which love grows. Love can only survive these injuries if they're acknowledged, healed, and rare. So one of the questions that I've been asked was, what do you do when the relationship has been damaged? And how do you move forward with that? That's my rough version of just remembering what the question was. That's it right there. Love can only survive these injuries where we've damaged the roots from which love grows. Can only survive these injuries if they're acknowledged, healed, and rare. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like, but just keep that in mind. Tony Evans, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Tony Evans. He's a preacher, I think, in Dallas. And he's written a bunch of books, and I think he's pretty awesome. I got this from a book called Kingdom Marriage. He also has Kingdom Man, Kingdom Woman, Kingdom Wife, Kingdom Husband. It kind of did overkill on the kingdom part, but it was all very good. I listened to all of them. But just talking about what is the definition of marriage, because he's the one that really brought it to my attention. Hey, it's not about this list of things you're doing or not doing. It's about this spiritual issue that we're having. So it says a covenant union, that marriage is a covenant union. Covenant meaning I promised, right? So it's a promise with God. A covenant union between a husband and wife who commit themselves to functioning together on the same team under divine authority in order to replicate God's image and expand his rule in the world through their individual calling. So marriage, according to Tony, is there to replicate God's image, to show the world what God looks like. Something else is that it means that marriage is between two people. This is another question that was sent in. Marriage is between two people, not the community. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't seek wise counsel. You still do. But keep in mind who wise counsel might be. Wise counsel looks like if I'm married or if I'm in a relationship and we're having trouble. Wise counsel would be someone who I admire their relationship. That looks like they've got their crap together, basically. I always chuckle when my husband calls me up or comes home and says, well, so-and-so called today and they're asking me about marriage and all this kind of stuff. And I always chuckle because he'll always say, but I am not the counselor. But I always find that comical. People who think they've got their stuff together. People who think we've got our stuff together are asking him questions. How do y'all do it? How do you keep Dee from therapizing you? I bet Dee has you figured out. And you know he loves that. So a relationship is between two people, not the community. Your community should be there to support you, not to tear you down. And that's the same thing that's true of your spouse or your significant other. Support you, not tear you down. If they don't, you may need a new community or at least to distance yourself. And then, again, seek outside counsel to be sure the community is healthy for you. And then, finally, to be loving. 1 John 3:18 says, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. So that's what love looks like. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to talk about the role of the male and the female, and I'm going to make this one pretty short. I know I'm running out of time. The role of the male is to protect and provide. That's your goal. That's your role. According to God, that's not according to Dee. Now, that might scare you. I don't blame you. It scares me to think about it. Oh, my goodness, at the responsibility that is laid on the men. The men in our church, the men in our families, how we raise our sons, how we teach our sons. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We see so many families failing because nobody told them that's their role, that that's their job, and what that looks like. No one, I can't think of the word, but no one said, look, here's what it looks like. This is what it looks like right here. Do this, this, and this. Be this, this, and this. Women, according to God, again, be willing to stand under the umbrella of protection. Now, the Bible uses the word submission, but all that really means in that is to be willing. Be willing to do that. But now for women to do that, here's what, guys, you need to know. We desire innately to feel secure. We just do. We can't help it. So anytime our security is threatened or we feel like it's threatened, all that shoe story that we talked about earlier, it becomes about the shoes. It becomes about you're not considering me. It becomes about you're not taking care of me. You're not helping me, all these things. But none of that really matters. What she's really saying is I don't feel secure. Now, on the flip side of that, men desire to be respected. And then women are saying, yeah, but how do I do that when they won't help me? How do I do that when they won't? Well, that, again, another conversation, another grown-up conversation. It's hard for me to be willing to stand under your umbrella when I feel all these things over here, which basically boils down to I don't feel protected, right? And the husband's over here saying, yeah, well, you don't respect me. Here's how I know that. You call me lazy. You call me, all kinds of other names, and I don't feel respected at all. I mean, in some respect, you guys should be standing up a little bit straighter and saying, yeah, I need to be respected. That's right. And then the girls should say, yeah, you should be standing up taller so that I can fit under that umbrella. Right? I mean, seriously. But a lot of times when we feel like men are not protecting us, we start to pull away, women. We start to pull away and we start to think, well, I have to do it myself because he's not willing to stand up. But what we don't realize is we're taking that masculinity from them. And so we're telling them, you don't do it right. I have to admit, that's been said in my house. Conley will no longer put dishes in the dishwasher because he doesn't do it right. And so the reality is, though, we start to take that away from them because when I say you don't do it right, it tears him down a little bit. And then he just says, fine, do it yourself. Right? I'll feel like a man doing something else. I don't have to do a dishwasher. And so we start to tear each other down that way. We don't realize it, but that's what we're doing. So in Matthew 22:39, as we've talked about it already, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Take good care of yourself. You can't give what you don't have. Not loving yourself becomes arrogance and prideful. But we need self-care. We need self-respect. Honestly, one of the things that attracts us to the opposite sex is self-care. If you're looking like a homeless person, I'm really not that attracted to you. Just saying. But if you're all put together and stuff, you might get a smile from me. But the other thing is just self-respect. Do it out of self-respect, not because you're trying to get someone else to do something or be attracted to you or whatever, but just because you like the way you look or you like the way you're carrying yourself. When sin enters the relationship, someone asked, how do you move forward when the relationship is so broken? When sin enters the relationship, and you guys are not going to like this, but it's true, humility is the key. Owning what your actions were. owning what you did, owning your own responsibility. Now, again, a responsibility is, the relationship is between two people, but owning your part. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I hurt us. That goes a long way. Don't make excuses. It really doesn't matter why. It really doesn't. Why is not really very relevant when you recognize that the relationship is in a mess, in shambles. Be patient and trust God to be God. Now I can do a whole talk on that, and I'm not gonna get too deep into that. But again, a relationship is between two people. If it breaks, there were still two people involved. You know? There's a dance that we do when we are in a relationship. Whether we're in conflict or in peace, that dance is real and it happens. If I think about my actions and I say, well, if I do this, Conley's going to think or Conley's going to do, that's all true. It's part of our dance. It's what we do. If you want the relationship to change, do a different dance. Or stop dancing. If it's broken, give it time to heal. Let it heal. Conduct yourself differently. Usually a marriage was broken long before trust was seriously broken. Nobody just ever talked about it because they didn't really know what to say. They didn't really know what to call it. They didn't know what to, how to present it. And maybe there's just one adult in the relationship. That could be a problem all its own. But just know that here I stand, and my husband is sitting right here in front of me, 29 years in, and it's because we hoped and because we listened. We started listening. It's really nothing to do with us. It's when we started listening, God started moving. That's why we've been here 29 years. Praise be to God. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in with us today. We hope this message blessed you and encouraged you. If you don't subscribe to our YouTube channel, be sure to do that. Click subscribe below. If you don't like our page on Facebook or follow us on Instagram, be sure to do that too. And if you want to give into the move of God happening here at Overflow Church, all you got to do is go to overflowchurchonline.com and it'll walk you through the steps. So we love you guys. We appreciate you tuning in with us. Have an incredible day.